Honorable Speaker of the Grand National Assembly of Turkey, President of the Asian Parliamentary Assembly, His Excellency Professor Dr. Mustafa Şentop, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to thank His Excellency Professor Dr. Mustafa Şentop for his invitation to the 13th plenary session of the Asian Parliamentary Assembly, for his warm welcome and hospitality. The leadership of the Grand National Assembly of Turkey in the Asian Parliamentary Assembly for the last 5 years is highly commended for the clear expression of commitment and dedication of the brotherly Turkey to multilateralism, solidarity, and interparliamentary cooperation. Honorable colleagues, our contemporary world has been facing the challenges that have become hard to deal with. The period of COVID-19 has only intensified the negative effects of problems affecting all spheres of human life, such as poverty, humanitarian crises, political and social tensions, economic inequalities, and climate change. But I believe the main outcome of the past 2 years has been about the approach taken by a global community in relation to these problems. Tendencies like vaccine nationalism, gaining unfair economic advantages, have shown inefficiency of the unilateral approach adopted by some big countries. Today, as our society slowly moves toward post-pandemic period with all of its harsh realities, dialogue, solidarity, and unity gain importance as never before. Despite coming under pressure, past experiences have taught us that there is no alternative to multilateralism. Yes, it needs serious refinements in order to meet today's challenges, which I will touch upon later in my speech. But only by mobilizing our efforts and staying true to international cooperation, we can find ways out of complex challenges. I strongly believe that it is exactly at this point where parliamentary diplomacy gets an opportunity to unlock its full potential. Distinguished colleagues, having already shown their value over the past years, today international parliamentary platforms have become an important element of multilateralism by supporting collective efforts and joint actions. We parliamentarians, as the representatives of our people, have a say in finding solutions to the challenges that concern all of us. And parliamentary cooperation platforms prove our commitment and determination to work together for a better world. In this sense, the Asian Parliamentary Assembly plays an important role. It brings together parliaments of Asia and provides a framework for dialogue, generation of new ideas and perspectives for greater and closer cooperation. A vast and diverse Asia region offers many opportunities that we can and should use. As the chairperson of the Parliamentary Network of the Non-Aligned Movement, which was established by the initiative of the President of the Republic of Azerbaijan, His Excellency Mr. Ilham Aliyev, I would like to state that the network shares the same vision and principles and is ready to cooperate with Asian Parliamentary Assembly for the common goals. Honorable colleagues, as I stated above, today's multilateral system needs serious refinements that will benefit all countries. What is needed? First and foremost, norms and principles of international law should be strictly and fully observed. International organizations that stand at the core of the multilateral system should refrain from double standards. Their decisions and resolutions should be implemented without selective approaches. This is a demand of today's international relations, but it is also imperative for justice and sincerity. Ladies and gentlemen, 20% of the internationally recognized territories of my country, Azerbaijan, were under the occupation of our neighbor Armenia for almost 30 years. During the years of occupation, Armenia deliberately destroyed all our cities and villages, vandalized all historical, cultural, and religious sites of Azerbaijan. Armenia carried out ethnic cleansing in these territories. Almost 4,000 citizens of Azerbaijan, both civilians and military, still remain missing in connection with the First Karabakh War. Ethnic cleansing resulted in more than 1 million Azerbaijanis becoming internally displaced persons from the occupied territories and refugees from Armenia. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, I would like to share with you some historical facts. The Azerbaijani people living in Armenia were ousted from their native lands even before the conflict started. It should be mentioned that historical maps and documents prove that present-day Armenia was established in historical lands of Azerbaijan, and the Azerbaijani people lived in those lands for centuries. Our historical city, Yerevan, was made the capital of Armenia in 1918. In 1920, by the decision of the Soviet government, Zangezur was severed from Azerbaijan and annexed to Armenia. It resulted by a geographical separation of Azerbaijan from its Nakhchivan region and Turkey. Unfortunately, the Azerbaijani people were subjected to deportation several times throughout the 20th century. The last phase of this deportation took place in 1988 to 1991, which I have mentioned before. As in Karabakh, the Armenians destroyed all our historical and religious monuments in the western Azerbaijan and changed the names of sites and villages of Azerbaijani origin. During the last century, it was done consistently with the aim of erasing our historical heritage in these lands. Honorable colleagues, continuing with the issue of the occupation, I would like to remind that during all these years, Azerbaijan tried to solve the conflict by peaceful means. However, 4 resolutions adopted by the UN Security Council in 1993, resolutions and decisions of other relevant international organizations that demanded immediate, complete, and unconditional withdrawal of the armed forces of Armenia from Azerbaijan's occupied territories were not implemented. But we did know that some resolutions of the United Nations Security Council are implemented within hours and days. In the case of Azerbaijan, they remained unfulfilled for 27 years. Unfortunately, no sanctions were imposed on the aggressor state by the international organization. Using the right of self-defense, which is provided by the Article 51 of the UN Charter, and at the cost of the lives of almost 3,000 of martyrs, Azerbaijan implemented United Nations Security Council resolutions, norms and principles of international law, and restores its territorial integrity and historical justice. After the end of the Second Karabakh War in November 2020, Azerbaijan has started the large-scale restoration and reconstruction works in the liberated territories in the framework of the Great Return Program. All our former internally displaced persons will return to their homes, and this process has already started. And I would like to share with you my firm belief that the rights of the Western Azerbaijanis will also be restored, and they will return to their native lands. Ladies and gentlemen, despite being the victim of occupation, it is Azerbaijan that makes efforts to ensure long-term peace and stability in the region and has proposed to Armenia to normalize relations and sign a peace agreement on the basis of 5 principles of international law. However, Armenia has been grossly violating the trilateral statement of November 10, 2020, that put an end to the conflict. It has still not withdrawn its armed forces from the territory of Azerbaijan and has been using Lachin Road for the military purposes, transportation of mines and looted natural resources of Azerbaijan. During the years of occupation, Armenia planted more than 1 million mines in these territories and still continues to do so. Since the end of the Second Karabakh War, almost 208 Azerbaijanis have been killed or seriously injured as a result of mine explosions. While showing destructive position in the negotiations, Armenia has also been disrupting the process of opening of communications and transport roads, despite the undertaken obligations. The opening of the Zangezur corridor, which will become a new transport road along the middle corridor connecting Asia to Europe, will greatly increase cooperation in transport and trade in the region and beyond. Honorable colleagues, at the end of my speech, I would like to express my hope that this plenary session, our discussions, will give impact to promoting multilateralism in the changing global dynamics. Thank you very much for your attention.